Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome again to the ASEAN leaders. We just had a very robust and productive conversation this morning covering very important issues that are part of our collective goals of working together, and so I thank you for that. And this afternoon, we are going to conduct a session directing our attention to the immediate existential issue of what we must do in the context of the climate crisis. Particularly, this session will address the work that we can do together in terms of climate action, clean energy transformation, and sustainable infrastructure. I want to also welcome and thank the members of our cabinet for being here who will participate in this conversation. Southeast Asia knows the impact of the climate crisis all too well. Rising sea levels, typhoons, floods, and drought. It costs lives and livelihoods, and it affects the American people as well, including in the last couple of years, we've experienced devastating wildfires in California, my home state, and most recently New Mexico, as well as our own share of floods and drought and hurricanes. So it is an issue that we are all concerned about and that we have experienced in a way that has caused great harm to the people of our nations. But the good news is we also have solutions at hand. And they represent then an opportunity to unlock new industries and economic growth for our countries. This is why together we must raise our collective ambition, accelerate the transition to clean energy, and meet our infrastructure needs in a sustainable manner. At this summit, the United States has launched a series of initiatives, and I'll highlight three in particular. One, we will mobilize billions of dollars by leveraging public, philanthropic, and private financing directed at clean energy and climate-smart infrastructure. Second, among the many initiatives will be an initiative to launch new partnerships on sustainable transportation and forest conservation. And third, as a point of personal privilege for myself, I am the chair of the National Space Council for the United States, and together we will expand what we can do to share satellite data in a way that will help ASEAN nations prepare and respond to the climate crisis and the resulting extreme weather. I often note and have talked with many of you about our shared belief that our world is increasingly more interconnected and interdependent. That is especially true when it comes to the climate crisis, which is why we will work together and continue to work together to address these issues, to tackle these challenges, and to work together as we continue to work operating from the new norms, rules, and agreements that we will convene to work together on to galvanize global action. With that, I thank you all. This is a matter of urgent priority for all of us, and I know we will work on this together. So with that, thank you, and to the members of the press, thank you all. We're going to now begin our conversation.
Thank you, Press.
Thank you.
My first question for you is a pretty simple one. Do you believe there is such a thing as, quote, settled science, that being a time when scientific inquiry is no longer required, when questioning is no longer required, when experimentation is no longer necessary?
Senator Cruz, it's good to meet you. Thank you for that question. The enterprise of science is one of inquiry, and over time there are fields where the scientific consensus emerges. It's been tested under a broad set of circumstances, and it starts to feel immutable. It never really fully is, but that is the nature of scientific inquiry, is to continue to ask those questions and to examine any topic from all perspectives.
Well, I agree with that, particularly the last point you just made, that it is the essence of science to question, and history is replete with all sorts of instances of quote, scientific consensus being categorically wrong. And the mantra of settled science is often a mask for a political agenda to prevent scientists from asking questions that are inconsistent with the political agenda. We know that it was once settled science that the Earth was the center of the universe, and Galileo was a heretic for daring to question otherwise. It was settled science less than 200 years ago that hand washing did nothing driver of carbon reductions. That is not science, that is politics, and frankly, it's bad politics.
The president's comments in this address to Noble, he refers to his predecessor watching the events of January 6th unfold from the private dining room, saying he didn't have the courage to act. I wonder if this is the most specific and the most forceful we've heard President Biden speak about his predecessor's conduct on January 6th, and I wonder if this is an indication of a change in posture. Would the president be bringing this kind of contrast more to the fore in the coming months?
So the president has been, pretty in the past several months has said that the former president bears responsibility on the and I think what you saw today was the president making that comparison. First of all, thanking the law enforcement for what they do, officers for what they do. Remember, he was speaking in front of black law enforcement who are in Orlando, and he wanted to take the time to thank them. Because if you think about it, we ask our law enforcement to go out there and protect our streets. On January 6th, in 2020, we asked law enforcement, or they had to protect our democracy. And so, the former president had a choice to make. The choice was, do you stand on the side of our law enforcement, or do you stand on the side of the mob? And we know his actions speak for himself, where the former president stood. I do want to pull out a little bit of what he said, because this is incredibly powerful what the president said. So the Capitol Police, the DC Metro Police, and the law enforcement were attacked and assaulted. They were speared, they were sprayed, they were stomped on, they were brutalized, and lives were lost. And after 3 hours, the defeated former president of the United States watched it happen. As he sat in the comfort of his private dining room next to the Oval Office, brave law enforcement were subjected to medieval hell for 3 hours. And so that's what the president wanted to make sure that he put out there, dripping in blood, surrounded by carnage, face to face with crazed mob that believed the lies of the defeated president. So the former president bears responsibility for that. And also in the speech, I want to add is that you heard the president also make a contrast with the two senators in Florida. We talk about you hear politicians talk about how they're on the side of law enforcement officers, but then you have these two senators in Florida who do the complete opposite of that. And a lot of that, if you look at the American Rescue Plan, which no Republican voted for, it had $350 billion to go to states to really help states with public safety. And so that's the contrast the president wanted to make, and he wanted to make sure he did that in front of the law enforcement officers who were there.
Some of the details he's drawing upon there echo what we have heard in the January 6th committee's hearings. Has the president also had any sort of briefings from Justice Department officials about the state of any investigations they might be undertaking?
So, as we've said many times here, as the president has said, the Department of Justice is an independent agency, especially as it comes to legal decisions and issues. So he leaves that on the Department of Justice. That's not something that we're going to comment. Again, they are independent when it comes to legal matters, and we leave that to them.